So before we get into today's episode, I just want to let you know that this week I'm opening up enrollment for my signature program, the Online Summit Program. Specifically, I'm looking for no more than 10 hikers who want to get strong and pain-free so they can conquer every adventure. If this sounds like you and you want to find out a bit more, shoot me a message to the Summit Strength page on Facebook or Instagram with the words, "I'm interested." From there, we can have a chat and see if and how that the program might be a good fit for your goals and situation. So whether you have a big trip in your sights, or you want to finally make a change to your knee, back, foot, or ankle pain, or you simply want to be in a great physical position so you can be confident to jump into any adventure that you want, I would absolutely love to hear from you. Shoot me a message, we can have a chat, and we'll go from there. Hey, my name is Rowan Smith, and I want to welcome you to the Training for Trekking podcast. Now, this is the world's very first podcast which is entirely dedicated to helping you train, prepare, and conquer your upcoming hike, trek, or mountain adventure. So once a week, I'm going to be giving you quality and practical information on the subjects of physical preparation for trekking, dealing with altitude, and nutrition on the trail, so you can know everything you need to be doing to have the best chance of a safe, enjoyable, and successful adventure. So now you know what you're in for. Let's get into today's episode. Alright, hello. So today I'm talking through a very, very important subject when it comes to strength training for hikers. And if you are doing some type of strength training to help improve your performance on the trail, this is super, super, super important to remember. And that is to make sure you're training with a combination of both high repetition endurance training and lower repetition strength training. Now, the reason I want to talk about this is I constantly see and hear people talking about high repetition strength training as the only thing a hiker should be concentrating on when they're doing their strength work. And I read this in articles, I see this in videos, I see this in recommendations on Facebook groups. It literally happens multiple times a week, and it is something that drives me nuts because the common perception around this is hikers are like, okay, hiking is an endurance activity, meaning I have to go for a long period of time. So if I do high repetition strength training where I get a good muscle burn and I really get fatigued towards the end, that is going to be the best thing to help simulate these conditions on the trail and make me better when I'm hiking. And yes, this is true. And I would never in a million years say higher repetition strength training is not important for hikers. But I would strongly encourage you to do some lower repetition stuff as well at some stage of your training. Now, just for perspective, what I'm talking about here in regards to low and higher repetition is higher repetition is something like 15 repetitions or more at one time. So you might do 15 squats or 20 squats or 30 squats, have a rest, do it again, whatever. Lower repetition training is anything that's maybe 8 repetitions or lower. So 8, 7, 6, I literally don't have to count the numbers, but you know what I mean. Now, both of those are incredibly beneficial for hikers, but unfortunately the high repetition stuff gets 99% of the attention. But when it comes down to it, the lower repetition strength training, where you're putting a little bit extra load through the body and a little bit extra challenge through the body, it's so incredibly beneficial for making elevation gain and loss much easier. It's so incredibly beneficial for helping you carry a heavy pack. It's so incredibly beneficial for helping improve your movement efficiency, meaning every single step you take uses less energy. It's really beneficial if you do it right for pain and injury prevention. And this in itself, if you can spend time doing this, it makes the endurance training that you're doing and the higher repetition endurance training you're doing way more effective. Now, when we're talking about high repetition stuff, it will also help with all of those things. Pain prevention, elevation, heavy packs, movement efficiency. It will help with all those areas. but in a different way. And to get the best results, you really, really want to be combining the two. Now, when I say combine the two, how would you actually go about this and how would you incorporate this into your training? And this is a question that I often hear. And there's really two big ways you can do this. There's so many different ways, but two real main ways that I generally recommend. Number one is if you have a specific hike you're training up for, a specific date you're trying to get ready for, a really simple way of doing this is spending half the time or 3/4 of the time doing strength training, so lower repetition stuff. So you might spend 3 months doing lower repetition stuff or 2 months doing lower repetition stuff, and then half the time doing endurance training. So you spend 2 months, 2 months, or 3 months, 1 month, or whatever it may be. And then that's leading up to a particular trip. Really simple, really effective, tried and true, and it works for a lot of people. Or alternatively, if you don't have a particular date in mind, or you just like a bit more variation in your training, you can do a mix. So you can do 1 day of lower repetition strength training, 1 day of higher repetition strength training. Or you can do half your workout at lower reps, half your workout at higher reps. However you want to break it up. It's not rocket science this. It doesn't have to be too complicated. But getting that mix, you can go either way. And it's something that definitely you want to consider. Now, in this situation, one of the big drawbacks of this sort of higher repetition strength training, lower repetition strength training, I should say, where we're challenging the body a bit more, we're putting extra load through the body, is it can be a little bit intimidating for some people who may not have experience doing strength training in general, or may simply not have experience doing this more strenuous strength training. And if you're in this situation and you're not 100% confident about maybe going and doing heavier squats or heavier deadlifts or doing things with a barbell or whatever it may be, if you're in this situation, there's a few things you can do. Number one is you can do single-legged exercises as your lower repetition stuff. So you can do split squats, you can do step-ups, you can do single-leg deadlifts or whatever it may be. And the reason I say this is inherently single-leg exercises are going to be more challenging and they're going to require less weight to get effective in these sort of lower repetition ranges. So while you might have to do a squat with say 40 kilos to, get to a stage where you can do 5 or 6 repetitions, if you're going to do a split squat, you might only have to add an extra 10 or 12 kilos. And that in itself can be much, much more approachable for a lot of people. And it can take a lot of the sort of worry and the concern around hurting yourself or doing something wrong. And that's a really, really good way to look at it. Another good way to look at it is using a slower tempo. So when you're doing these exercises, maybe just go a little bit slower. Take 3 seconds or 4 seconds on the way down. Put a little pause at the bottom before going up. Now, this in itself is always going to make an exercise more challenging than just going through things really, really quickly. And if you are concerned about loading up extra weight, this can be a good balance where you might not have to add extra weight. You can just slow things down and only add a small amount of weight. Or finally, if you're really, really concerned about this and you do struggle with this, even using a machine, it's not the worst thing in the world. Use a leg press and do a leg press for 5 repetitions or a single leg press for 8 repetitions or something like that. Use the Smith machine in the gym, which is like a barbell on some racks, or use some machine like that. I wouldn't recommend doing leg curls or leg extensions where you're just working one muscle on a machine for lower repetition stuff. It's not super, super effective. But if you're going to use a machine, something that's going to work, multiple muscles at a time. So your leg presses work in the hamstrings and the glutes and the quads. The Smith machine, you can do a split squat or a squat there or whatever. There are options for you. I wouldn't say they're first options, but it's something you can look at. But if you are a hiker and you're trying to improve your performance on the trail, and you are incorporating strength training into your week, please make sure you consider this lower repetition, more challenging strength training. The rewards are amazing. It does have a little bit of a barrier for entry and it can be a bit intimidating, but it's so, so, so worthwhile. So next time you're reading an article or next time you're online and you see someone just saying only do high repetition stuff because that's all you want to do as a hiker, ignore them. They don't know what they're talking about. Now you know you want to balance to see your best results. Now, if you're in this situation and you're listening to this and you're like, all right, Rowan, this sounds good. I'm in. I want to start incorporating this, but I don't know where to start. Or I know I want to do strength training, but I haven't actually looked at this. I've never done a full program. How do I get involved? If you're in any of these situations or you just want extra help with your training, this week I am looking for no more than 10 hikers to come get involved on my signature program, the online summit program, and who want to get strong and pain-free so they can conquer every adventure. So if you want to make sure you're doing your strength training in the best possible way to help you on the trail, if you want to look for and make sure you're doing all your cardio and your mobility workouts in a time efficient manner that's best going to help you going up and down those hills or walking with a heavy pack or keeping up with a group, or if you just want to get in a position where you don't have to deal with aches or pains or worry of injury anymore, I would absolutely love to hear from you. If you want to find out more, find the Summit Strength page on Facebook or Instagram. Shoot me a message with the words "tell me more." We can have a chat and see if and how the program might be a good fit for your goals and your particular situation. So if you want help, you want to learn a little bit more, shoot me a message and we can go from there. So thank you so much for listening today, guys. I really do hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we'll talk to you very soon. Bye.